Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today I'm going to start the Shavuot daf Chaf Aleph. We are going to be on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, 6 lines from the top. Kiyasa Ravin. So we are in the middle of discussing what exactly is a case of a Shavuot Shav. What's the case of a Shavuot Sheker? And the reason why it's important to know this is because in order to be able to get the various punishments, Hasram, warning must be given by the Edom, and they need to tell you what you're about to do is either a Shavuot Shav or a Shavuot Sheker. So we end up learning that when it comes to a Shavuot Shav, it's like a Shavuot for no reason. That's a case, at least according to what we saw yesterday, where you said, I didn't eat or I ate, which was the opposite of the truth. So at the time that you said it, it's Shav. It was clear that that's not what happened. So therefore, it's a shvuah like almost in vain. So at the time of the actual shvuah, you have violated it. However, shvuah sheker is something in the future. You say, I will eat, I will not eat. So therefore, if you end up violating it, then that shvuah is sheker. So that's the interpretation. However, we said, the kashem shaloik al shav kach loika nami al sheker. That, or the other way around, that a person will get malchus either by Shavuot Shav or by Shavuot Sheker. And the question was, that's a double pashut. We thought that since it says lo yenake by a Shavuot Shav, there's no way of cleansing a Shavuot Shav, and maybe even malchus you can't get in order to be cleansed. So kamash one, that you do get malchus. That was one explanation. Let's see the Gemara. Kiyasa Ravin, Rabbi Yomi, Rabbi Yochanan. Person says, Achalti, I ate, or Vlo Achalti, I did not eat, which is in the past tense. Here, Sheker. It's the opposite of what we said before. We said before that's a Shavuot Shav. Here we're saying that I ate or I did not eat in the past is actually Shavuot Sheker. This Harte Melo Tishbu B'Shmila Sheker. However, Oichel Vlo Oichel, that I will eat, I will not eat, so we said before that not Bal Yachal Davar is the generic Isser of violating a neder. So in this case, we're saying that when it comes to you have a Shavuot Sheker, is I ate or I didn't eat. I will eat, I will not eat. That's considered to be a violation of Bal Yachal. So Ve'ezu hi Shavuot Shav Nishbal Lishano says Hiyadul Adam. If you deviate from something in which the whole world knows, and this is something which everyone in the world knows. Like, for example, to say a man is a woman or a woman is a man, which nowadays maybe it's not such a double pashut, but when it comes to a Shavuot Shav, that actually, according to the way the Gemara understands it, which is reality, which unfortunately we don't live necessarily in everyone living in reality, that's a Shavuot Shav. Amar Papa, Hadu Rabbi Avoy, La Befereshit Mar, El Machlolid Mar. This interpretation of Rabbi Avoy of what is a Shavuot Sheker, what's Lo Yachel, and what's Shavuot Shav is actually through inference. The Amar Rabbi Idi, Rabbi Amar Rabbi Amran, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Misham, Rabbi Yosef Galili. He said the following in the name of Rabbi Yosef Galili. Kol loisa say Shiva Torah. Anytime you have a loisa say, lav sheish bo ma'isa, if it's a lav which there is an action attached to it, like in a lav, then you get malchus. Of course, if you do an action, you violate a lav with an action, you get malchus. However, shein bo ma'isa ain't like in a lav. The general rule is that when it comes to lav shein bo ma'isa, you don't get malchus. Chutz, however, there's exceptions. Menishba, when it comes to someone who makes a shvuah, umeimar, when it comes to tamura, a person who exchanges the sanctity of one animal to the other, umekalas chaver b'shem, or a person who is mekalel, his friend curses him with God's name. Now, nishba menalin, how do we know that even though it's a lav shem b'maisa you get malchus? Rabbi Yochanan misham Rabbi Shimon Yochai. It says that a person is not allowed to say Hashem's name for nothing. Because if you do, then Hashem will not cleanse you. Hashem and the heavens will not forgive you. Based in Shalmaila in Menakinoi. So the dik is that Davka Hashem won't cleanse you through like Kares or Misas B'di Shemayim. Avol based in Shalmata Malkinoiso Manikinoiso. However, when it comes to based in Shalmata, the Itaka can give you Malchus, and there is a din Malchus. So again, that was what we said before in yesterday's daf, that you would think because it says Lo Yanakeh, so you would think Taka that there's no possibility of getting cleansed, and therefore there should be no Malchus. So the Chiddush is that even when it comes to Shur Shav, you get Malchus. So maybe it just means not at all, right? Not even based in Shalmata. There shouldn't be Malchus. Now, if it said the words ki lo yanake, because you will not be cleansed, then kidakamer. You're right. Hashek said ki lo yanake Hashem. Hashem hudein manake, but based in Shalmata, malkin oisai umenakin oisai. So Ashkachan Shvur Shav. We find when it comes to Shvur Shav, the din is you get Malchus. Shvur Shekamenol. So Rabbi Yochanan Lili Omer, it was said the following: L'shav shtei pamim. When a person says L'shav 2 times, so why does it say in the pasuk L'shav twice? Because you already know that when it comes to Shvur Shav, there's a din Malchus. So Tenu Inin L'Shvur Sheker. So therefore, we learn out from the extra word. So an Indian that also when it comes to Shvur Sheker, there's a din Malchus. Okay. Now in this Rabbi asked a question. Hi, Shvur Sheker Hechidami. What exactly are we talking about when you say Shvur Sheker? What took place? Ilema, if you want to tell me what is the case of Shvur Sheker, Shvur Shlo Oichal Oichal, it's a Shvur that I will not eat, and then he ended up eating, so that's a lav sheish bo maisahu. That's a lav with an action. So how are we using that as an example of, when it comes to any lav sheish bo maisa, we don't get malchus except for a Shvur. The case of Shvur is that you say, I will not eat, but you ate, so you did an action. Rather, you make a shvua to say that I will eat, and you did not end up eating. So therefore, it's a lav shemo maisa. Now, mi loika. In this case, would he give malchus? Person says a shvua that I'm going to eat this bread today. They pass. Both of them say you don't get malchus for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan apparently, when it comes to shvua, that says I will not. A person makes a shvua of I will eat this bread, and the day goes and he doesn't eat it. That's a lav shim bo maisa. Again, we see obviously. Therefore, we see it's a machlokas to behold hasra savik, because at the time of the warning, there's a suffix whether he's actually going to violate it or not, because he still has time in the day to be able to do it, and therefore, because of that, that's not a valid hasra. The Rabbi Vo. So in this, Rabbi Vo said, "Tehei b'achalti v'achalti." Actually, the case is achalti v'achalti. I ate v'achalti, or I didn't eat. So why are we saying all this? So going all the way back to how we began today, Rav Avoy said that the case of achalti v'achalti is sheker. It's a case of shur sheker. So umayishna. So what is the reason why in this case taka of I ate, or I say I did eat, but I did not end up eating? That's a shvua. That's considered to be a lav shem b'maisa, but you still get malchus. But why? So Rabbi fair shivs the Torah shvur sheker daim l'shav ma'ashav l'sha'avar av sheker nami l'sha'avar. So just like when it talks about shvur shav, it's in the past tense. So too is shvur sheker is in the past tense. So at least it shows when it comes to shvur sheker, it's considered l'sha'avar. Okay, but also when it comes to shvur shav, it's you make a shvua about something which already was. This person's a man, right? Yeah, but it's really a woman. So that's something which the person was already born. So it's l'sha'avar. Eis Rabbi Yirmu Rabbi Voy. Shvuah shlo eichel kikasu shvuah shlo echlena. Shvuah, I'm not going to eat this bread. Shvuah shlo echlena. So he basically said it 3 times. V'achla, and you ate it. So how does it work? There are 3 violations. Eino chayv el achas. Even though you said it 3 times, you're only chayv once. Why? Says Rashi, de'en shvuah chal shvuah. Because one shvuah is not chal on another one. The kivan de nishma, once you made a shvuah the first time, havi l'shvuah shniya l'kaimas a mitzvah. So once you made a shvuah, so now it's a mitzvah to keep the shvuah. And therefore, when we know that a person who makes a shvuah to be mekayim a mitzvah is potter. So because of that, that's the din. So even though you said it 3 times, you only chayav once. Zuhi shuas bitoi shechayav al zadayin makas yashagasa karabel yared. This is a situation where you will be chayav a karban oyav yared. Now, why zuhi limuti mai? What is that coming to exclude? Lav, is it not? Limuti, to come to exclude achalti v'lachalti delolaki. That if a person in the past tense says, a person who says achalti v'lo achalti, I ate or I didn't eat, that you wouldn't get malchus. So how are we telling me that by it's considered shua sheker, I ate or I didn't eat? Maybe that's coming to exclude that case, and therefore you would not get malchus. The answer is no. Well, immuti achalti v'lo achalti mikarbon. You're right. When it says I ate and I didn't eat, so you would not have to bring carbon v'olav yared in that case. Zu he diashkagos carbon oil yared of achalti v'achalti lo. When it comes to achalti v'lo achalti, you would not bring a carbon. However, even though you don't have to bring a carbon, you still get malchus. Rabbi Shmuel he diamer enu chayev el al hasid lavoy. The only time you're chayev to bring a carbon olav yared is on the future. I will eat, I won't eat, but not I ate or I didn't eat. But even though you said I ate or I didn't eat, achalti v'ochalti, which according to the sheet of Rabbi, that constitutes as shua sheker, there will be malchus, but there just would not be a carbon oil yared. Avol milky lucky, but taki you would still give this person malchus. Let's look at question 5. Lav shein bo maisa ein loiken lav chutz menishma el shvuas shein behen maisa loiken land. What are the shvuas that even though there's no action, you would still get malchus on this? So what is that referring to? Let's just find this Gemara really quick. Okay, so that's referring to what does it mean nishma? So we end up saying by a shvuah shav. So we're talking about a case of a shvuah shav or a shvuah sheker with sha'avar, right? So that's what we said, that ma shav with sha'avar, av sheker nami with sha'avar. So in the past tense, when it's a shvuah sheker or a shvuah shav, it's something that you did in the past tense. So by a shvuah sheker is a chalti v'chalti. So too when it comes to a shvuah shav. Okay. Weiter. Chaf al from the base. So again, you still would get malchus. Ema safe. Chaf al from the base. Zuhi shvuah shav. This is a case of a shvuah shav. Shechayav al zadan malchus yashkagasa potter. However, b'shageg you're going to be potter. So what is this? Says Rashi, Oimer al omud shel even shehu shel zahav. If you said regarding a pillar which is silver that is gold, right? Something which clearly it is not, or a man is a woman, so that's shvuah shav, and that's in the past tense. But it says that you're potter. Zuhi l'muti mai lav l'muti achalti v'achalti delo lucky. It's coming to tell you that you would not get malchus again when it comes to a shua sheker, shua sheker of the past. Lo zuhi d'alshkagaso potter carbon of achalti v'achalti alshkagaso chayiv carbon. You are chayiv a carbon. For Rabbi Kiva the mechayiv l'shaver kila haba. So it's actually machlokas. That according to Rabbi Akiva, you taka archav a karno of yared on the past, just like in the future. Ha'am Reisha Rabbi Shmuel. But I thought you said the Reisha was Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah, Reisha is Rabbi Shmuel, but say Rabbi Akiva. Is that case? So Kul Rabbi Akiva Reisha lav limuti achalti v'achalti mekarben. It's not coming to say that when you say achalti v'achalti that you're it's excluding you from a carbon. El muti oichav lo'achal memalkus. It's talking about a case that you don't get malchus because the lav shemo ma'isa. Avol carbon mechayev umayshna mistaber koibul haba memayl haba koibul haba memayl l'shavar. It makes more sense that the future will exclude the future, not the future to the past. Okay, let's see if there's a question over here. Okay, so actually we had this a while ago. We got to see this question now. So this is actually goes to Chaf Amud Beis and Chaf Amud Aleph. Maz haral achalti v'lo achalti. A person says achalti v'lo achalti, which according to achalti v'lo achalti could, according to one interpretation, Shavuot shav, and the azhara is losis l'shemokecha l'shav. That's considered to be a Shavuot shav. That's one explanation, or maybe that's not considered to be a Shavuot shav. A Shavuot shav, according to Rabbi, is when a person says something which is just obviously flat out not a possibility, but rather the case of achalti v'achalti is actually a Shavuot sheker, and the azhara is malo sismu b'shmil shaker. So those are the two answers. TA 15. Let's see how he writes it here. TA 15. Achalti v'achalti pluta lo tishbu b'shmil shaker o lo sisel shav. V'achal v'loy oichel pluta lo sishbu b'shmil shaker o lo yachal devaroi. Okay, so that's what we said. Okay. TB 16. Maz haral chalti v'chalti v'oichal v'oichal. Same question. That's a really hard question, by the way. But that's what they're asking for. That's TB 16, which again is on Chaf Amud Beis and Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. I wrote Sis Hashem B'Shav, Osis Shaker, Bal Yachal Devaro. I mean, these are really good answers that I wrote. TB 16. Okay, TB 16. So it's again, it's a machlokas. What is a Shavuot? Which one is a case of a Shavuot sheker? Which one is a case of Shavuot shav? Okay, and Bal Yachel is also thrown in the mix there as well. Okay, fine. Let's keep on going. Let's now see the next piece of Gemara on again Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. So the Gemara says like this. Shavuot shel oichel v'ochal kol shehu chayev. So our Mishnah said that if a person makes a shavuot that I'm not going to eat, and then you taka ate, so interestingly enough, even if you eat the smallest amount, Rabbi Akiva says you're chayev. So in this, they said to Rabbi Akiva, where do we find that you're chayev even if it's a kol shehu, right? It should should have a certain measurement to be chayev. So he said, no. It's Rabbi Akiva says, "The heichen matzinu b'medaber maybe carbon, shezemadaber maybe carbon." It's based on your words, the violation of your words. It's not the violation of how much you ate per se. That's why Rabbi Akiva says even a kol shehu. Shavuot shloich v'achol kol shehu chayev. Iboil Rabbi Akiva b'chol Torah kula Rav Shimon svirlei d'mechayev b'mashehu. Does he actually hold like Rav Shimon in kol Torah kula? That just like he mentioned here, that even the smallest amount you're chayav to sign your Shimon Omer. This is also brought down Makos, which you had not too long ago. The center of Shimon Omer Koshehu Makos, that even the smallest amount you're chayav Makos. But Loy Omer Kazayas, the only reason why I mentioned a minimal shear is in carbon, is only to bring a carbon. But to get Makos is even a Koshehu. V'dinhu de boyev be'alma. The truth is, Rabbi Akiva didn't just have to mention it over here. He could have argued in general that you're chayav b'chol shehu. Why by Shavuos does he mention this argument? So it shows the strength of the Rabbanon. The Apple of the equal Maimar. Even though you could say Hoyol Mafarish Chayiv, since if he made a specific oath, he'd be Chayiv. Stam Nami Chayiv. So he should also be Chayiv. Stam Kamash Malon de Patri. That he actually, according to the Rabbanon, needs a shear, says Rashi. The impira shua shall oichel kol shehu. If he says, I will not eat even a kol shehu, you ochel kol shehu chayiv shahari hichlef shavuasai. So he violated his shua. So stam maybe also your chayiv sheish loimer shehinishma eno datai el achil shel Torah el acher loshem niyadam v'chol shehu nischaven. When a person, I'm not going to eat that. So what does that mean? I'm not going to eat a certain shear. It means I'm not going to eat it at all, right? Because we go after the lashon b'nei adam. So therefore, you would maybe think that when it comes to a shvuah, it's a different din. That if you are explicit in saying, I will not eat a kol shehu, then you're chayiv. So maybe the Rabbanon hold that also stam, you're also going to be chayiv. Kamashman, stam, you're potter. Odilma, and therefore Rabbi Akiva holds this called Torkula. But by Shua, there's more of a reason, to make a distinction. Odilma be'alma korbanos really. Really, he holds you do need a shear. Maybe it's for this reason. Again, because when it comes to a kol shehu, maybe he holds not. But by Shua, if you say, I will not eat a kol shehu, you are chayiv. So therefore, maybe you're chayiv over here too. Tashma, Yamal Rabbi Akiva, Heichen Mertzinu b'oichel kol shehu chayiv shezeh chayiv. Says, where do you find that you're chayiv for eating kol shehu? B'im isa lemohu anah b'chol Torkula Rav Shimon serially. He could have just said, what are you talking about? Where do you find it? I hold like Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon holds that we always kol Torkula, we hold like this. So it must be he doesn't hold like Rav Shimon. Versus no, with the Vram do Rabbanan Karmelhu. With Didi, Rabbi Akiva says, according to me, b'chol Torkula Rav Shimon serially. I talk a hold like Rav Shimon. So you're saying, where do I find it? I agree. I hold like Rav Shimon. Kol Torkula only needs a kol shehu to be chayiv. What did hu? However, you, the Rabbanan, oidoli mio, at least agree to me. Hoyel mefarish chayiv. Since, as we know, if you would have said b'chol dehu, kol shehu, you'd be chayiv. So stam nami chayiv. Rabbanan lo. Okay, and that's how we explain it. Tashma, Rabbi Akiva Omer, nazir sheshar pita b'yayin. So you have a nazir that dips and soaks his bread into wine. The Yishba Kadei with Sarif Kazayas, and this is all discussed in Masechtas Pesachim about Tomsky Iker and whether or not we can or mitzaref Isser Heter, etc. Heter Isser Heter. So he immersed his bread, and now the Yishba Kadei with Sarif Kazayas. There's enough wine and bread together that's a combination that together with the bread and the wine, so therefore it's chayiv. Says Rashi, the hetem and starv le'isser. When it comes to the dinim of nazir, and perhaps this is just one of the few exceptions that the Gemara Pesachim discusses, because it says mishras, v'choyel mishras. So therefore you're chayiv in that situation to bring a carbon to your chayiv. Okay. And according to Rav Shimon, all you need is a kol shehu. So then why would you need to mitzaref? So it must be that we don't hold like Rav Shimon. The oitnan, shvur shel oichel, person says, I'm not going to eat. But ochel, nevelis v'treif v'shkotzim v'ramasim, chayiv. So he's going to be chayiv a carbon shvur. Now, the question is, why would he be chayiv? Rav Shimon makes a lot of sense here. Rav Shimon Paiter. And Rashi explains, Shahari mushba b'oimin mahar Sinai, al nevelis, v'en shvua chal al mitzvah. So a shvua is on the person. So you have a chiyuv yourself to keep the mitzvos. So therefore, a shvua, since it's on you, a shvua is, a neder is on the cheftza, on the shvua is on the person, on the gavra. So therefore, you as a person have a chiyuv to keep the mitzvos and to separate yourself from sin. And therefore, because of that, as the Gemara explains in Psachim and elsewhere that there's no din of, according to Rav Shimon, you're not going to be chayiv carbon shvuah because you already are chayiv not to eat these things. So it's not the shvuah, I better not eat these non-kosher items. You can't eat them anyway. So your shvuah doesn't mean anything. That's Rav Shimon. Now, the Gemara says, Vavin ba amai chayiv. After all, Mushma Harsinahu. Rav Shimon sounds very good, right? Why would anyone disagree? So Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, and Tavayu, they all answer. All of them say the Tavayu sounds like two people. So on the side it says maybe we don't read the word Tavayu. B'koyel devarim hamutarim im devarim ha'asurim. What you did was you connected some mutter and usher things together. Says Rashi Koimer. Im hoyin nishmal nevela silvadin. If you only said I'm making a shua, I'm not going to eat a nevela. So lo haisa shua chala. Even everyone agrees, not just Rav Shimon, but even the Tanakama will hold that it's nothing because you're not allowed to eat nevela. Avol zeh shomer lo oichel stam. Person says I'm not going to eat. Now, when you say I'm not going to eat, that includes mutter things and usher things. So if you say I'm not going to eat, so devarim hamutarim hasurim yachad. So you're concluding together mutter and usher things. Umigu dechayel shvuah mutarin. Since the shvuah is chal on that which is mutter, chal nami devarim asurin beiser shvuah. So therefore, that's what the Rabban will say is that of course you're right. If all I do is say making a shvuah on a nevela, it doesn't mean anything. If I make a shvuah, I'm not going to eat, and of course that includes kosher and non-kosher. So therefore, because of that, we'll say that since it's chal on the mutter foods, so it's going to be chal also on the nevela, and therefore you violated. If you ate nevela, you'd be chayav shvuah. However, Rav Shimon leisli iser chal iser. I feel alidi klal. Or Shimon disagrees that you can do this. So that's the machlokas. Back in the Gemara. B'koyel devar mamater min devar masurin. B'reish lakish omer iya tamoitza el I b'mafarish chatzi shir v'liv rabbanon o b'stam v'liv Rabbi Kiva. Yomer adam oiser atzim b'chol shehu. He says that we can only find they're going to be chayiv a carbon shvuah is when it comes to chatzi shir. Shenu, says Rashi, Shenu mushmal of Mahar Sinai. Now the Torah says you can't eat a certain measurement, but a chatzi shir, the Torah doesn't say. Mishum shvuah mechayiv. So maybe in that case, because there's chatzi shir, you would be chayiv. Iyatamoitza ella ibn farish chatzi shir v'lib rabbanon. So in that case, you maybe are chayiv because if you eat chatzi shir, because that's not a shvuah from it's not taken already from the Torah. The Torah says you can't eat a certain measurement. There's a question of chatzi shir asim in the Torah. Okay, it's the whole shiloh over here. According to him, he says that even the smallest amount, you're chayiv. Says Rashi, ibastam matzas mukum zol liv Rabbi Kiva. Di'amar adam nishma lo oichel stam. I'm not going to eat. Daitul aser atzma b'chol shehu, which means he's asering any amount. Now the Torah doesn't say he can't eat any amount, but I'm asering any amount of nevela. So therefore, if I eat any amount of nevela, so then maybe I will be chayiv because it's not nishma har Sinai. Anyway, so that's another possibility. If Rabbi Kiva generally holds like him, right? Then kol shehunami mushva imim har Sinaihu. Why don't we say that when it comes to even the smallest amount is mushva imim har Sinai? In other words, if you hold that you need a certain shear kazayas, so therefore kol shehu is not nishma mushma mahar Sinai, and therefore if you make such a shvuah and you eat a small amount of the veil, you would be chayiv a carbon shvuah, because the Torah doesn't say that that's the measurement. If the Torah says that the measurement is even a kol shehu, then you can ask back to the kasha. It's mushma mahar Sinai. So it must be he doesn't hold like Rav Shimon in all cases. So that's how we tackle it out. That is the proof. Okay. You tell me we never find it? Vahari nimala, when it comes to an ant, which is a tiny little thing, and you're chayav even to eat it. Where it says bury a shani. Yeah, but that's different because it's a whole creature, and therefore it doesn't have to have the shear. Vahari hektish. How about when it comes to hektish also, even a small amount you're also going to be chayav. It says Rashi Shum is chayav mi'ila b'shava pruta. You're chayav once it's a pruta, even when it's much less than a kazayas. So habininim shava pruta. So there's that shear. Bahari mefarish, where you explicitly say, I will not eat even a kosher. So where it says mefarish nami kiberia dami, it's comparable to a beria. Bahari afar. How about dust? Says Rashi, Omer shua shel oichel afar. I'm making sure I'm not going to eat dust. Says Rashi, the kos lav barachila. It's nothing you could eat anyway. Lo shaykh be shir achila. So you can't have the shear of achila of a chayav b'choshu. So you'd be chayav even the smallest amount. So maybe when it comes to dust, again, you're chayav, that we find that would be, you'd be chayav koshu. Elwas, we can chaf beis of tivshit the boy Rava. Well, we should be able to answer that which Rava asked. Shavuot shel oichel, a person makes a shua not to eat, v'achel afar, and he ate dust, bekama. So the question is, with how much? So tipshit ad ika kazayas. Maybe you actually need to have a kazayas. Okay, kamrinan b'meidah davar chila kamrinan. Or it has to be something in which is edible, and therefore that's not going to be a raya that it must be that there is something that you can be chayav even kol shehu. Yeah, but we're talking about something which is a kol shehu, which is something which is edible. Bahari kanamais, says Rashi, Aimer kainim kikar zu olai. You forbid this bread upon yourself. So Iser Atzim B'choshu, even the smallest amount. Right? So Kanamos Namikim Afarish Dami. Says Rashi, that's like you explicitly said. She'enu Maskir B'Shem Achila Koshu Kaimer. Once you don't mention the word Achila, so Achila is a shear. If we don't mention the word Achila, so then it's even Koshu Chayev. Question 6. Shavuot Shel Oichel V'Ochen Avelis Trevis Chayev. Eichol HaShavua Navelis V'Mushma Har Sinaihu. So either, as we said, it could be, Rav Shmuel says, once you're koil devarim mutarim chal gama iser. So you said, I'm not going to eat anything. So therefore, since it's chal on the kosher food, it's going to be chal also on the nevelos as well. Rish Lakish says, we're talking about chatzi shir nevela, and therefore that's a raya that if it's chatzi shir, so therefore kol shehu is not something which is oimin mahar sinai, and therefore that's a raya that Rabbi Kiva holds that taki you're not going to be, that he doesn't hold up of the shita the whole Torah kula. Okay, question TA 16. Tanya shnei konamos and starfin. Okay, we didn't do that. Question 23. Omad yamracha kula b'mezeh nishnaleha adkan.